Mis amigos, welcome back to Camtaso Park. In the last episode we took a look at the finished tiki area of Buddy's Bay and I was very eager to build the second area of our park themed to Saguaro Guitaro, so I started working on this immersive new area as soon as the episode was uploaded. Between a new triple launch Gerstlauer Family Coaster, a few custom shops, facilities and even a custom vending machine, we have a lot to see in Pueblo de Saguaro Guitaro together, so let's check out every detail of the 5,926 pieces I added to the park. Oh, and remember, you can download the latest work-in-progress version of this park using the share code on your screen. That way you can get your own guided tour of the area. Now, let's get this tour going, shall we? We're picking up where we left off last time at the east exit of Buddy's Bay, where I reworked the portal to fit the theme a little more. I'd originally used Viking lanterns to go for a more classic western feel, but you'll quickly realize that I embraced a more modern industrial vibe with this area, so I changed the sign accordingly and added some discrete damage decals to it. Speaking of the portal, I really recommend you work on your transitions when creating a multi-themed park. It's especially useful when you're going from one environment to another because the transition is always very sharp, so think about how you can apply a smooth transition between a tropical setting and a canyon, for instance. It's also a way for you to subtly change the path texture and hint at the themes that you're going to explore in the next area, like we're doing here with the metal beam supporting the rock, suggesting that the miners have dug that hole to Buddy's Bay. That's right, we're not only going for a Mexican village, but also a mining operation, a combination of themes I loved playing around with, even if that meant I had to do countless hours of rock work to make the canyon. Our mining theme is something I took advantage of right away with Black Gold, our first shop of the area, which is a custom latte love. This is where miners would come to get their café para mineros before going to work. My reasoning was that the Pueblo is the first area that guests can get to from the entrance of Camtaso Park, so having a coffee on their way to their first ride in the morning was a good and fitting idea for the mine-themed area. I know next to nothing about coffee. I know it's almost a religion to some, so please forgive my ignorance. I simply used the items on the in-game menu to write the menu, and I also made a custom coffee machine that you can download from the workshop using the share code on the bottom left of your screen. I think those are supposed to be coffee tanks, and those handles are what's used to pour the coffee in the cups. Ignorance at its finest. Again, very sorry. Please, teach me the coffee ways in the comments. But look, tiny cups. I must be a time traveler because I can already hear you from the future asking how I made those. Well, that's actually very easy. They're a bunch of mythology pottery free, scaled down to 50% and sunk into the wall so that only the top remains and acts as our cup. I want to imagine that this shop would work like some of the drink shops in German parks where you rent, for the lack of a better verb, the cups and get a couple euros back if you bring them back, and that's why I added a sink so our staff can clean them up for another use, but you can also take it home as a souvenir cup. Oh, and would you look at that, a working barrel bin. Those are not pre-made bins, and that's why covering the recolored bamboo bins with an open barrel scaled up to 110% is a great way to make them, and the neat part is that you can group bins and scenery together now, so you can reuse this wherever you like. Remember, just because something isn't already an item in the game doesn't mean that you can't make it yourself, especially now that scaling exists. The possibilities are genuinely endless. Another use for the barrel is to make a small water tower where I spent longer than I would admit wrapping individual letters around it to spell Pueblo de Saguaro Guitaro. This is another opportunity to hint at the more industrial side of the village with the pipes from the aquatic theme. The sign reading Agua Limpia means that this is clean water, helping our world building for this area because the water being poured inside this bucket is very much the only water feature you will find in this area. I really wanted to show the contrast between the lush tropical bay and the harsh canyon, and that's why the fountain is dry. I wanted to suggest that the people of the Pueblo prioritize their own survival. To suggest the fountain's derelict state, I used the decals again to add cracks and dried moss to its pale colors. The reason why the only source of clean water is placed there is because the toilets are also there. As usual, I've made custom toilets to maximize immersion with toilet paper rolls, mirrors, sinks, hand dryers, and of course, the toilets themselves. If you need a basic toilet set to make your own custom toilets, I've got what you need. You can download my toilet kit using the share code on the bottom left of your screen. You will find classic white items in that kit, but you can transform them to fit your theme, like the sinks that I've put in those barrels, for example. I totally forgot to mention this before, but yes, we're now on the plaza of the Pueblo, and at the back of it you can find two buildings that are only here as theming. One of them is a small house with a little terrace where I reused some custom chairs from the last episode and added tequila shots to suggest that some friends were having fun up there. The other one acts as our gate to hide the staff area and maintain the immersion in the village. As I said in the last episode, I don't want to work on the staff area right away because it will be at the heart of our park and therefore will need all of the themed areas to be complete before being able to be worked on. That being said, we can already see the beginning of its shape being drawn by the edges of our two areas. Next up is El Burro, our gift shop for the area. There's a whole lore behind the character of El Burro, which is totally stolen from this soda machine called Mule. And if this doesn't ring a bell, well, let me tell you about it. This is a recreation from Call of Duty Zombies, where you can buy perk sodas using points that act as buffs for your character, and Mule is one that allows you to hold free weapons. What's the lore behind it, and most importantly, why is it in the Pueblo? Well, legend tells us of a man, a hero in a tortured land, where senoritas lived in fear, their lonely nights in deep despair. He was El Burro! Across the fields, across the plains, he runs so fast he dodged the rain. He was El Burro. He hurried in to save the day, gun in hand and price they say. He was strong like a mule, he was stubborn like a mule, even kicked like a mule. El Burro, El Burro. Men are evil, so they say, but some and more, it's just the way. He was El Burro. He was El Burro. El Burro. All that for Soda Machine. Yes, and I thought it was a nice idea to imagine that the legend of this Mexican gunslinger is being used by the person living here to sell all sorts of stuff like cups, bowls, towels, posters, and even plants. Comerciante legendario indeed, or at least I like to think so. Oh, and look, it's also a great opportunity to hide the in-game counter by transforming it into a makeshift one. This is a Hats Fantastic selling Saguaro Guitaro caps, a way to continue what we started with Jawsome Gifts a couple of episodes ago, where our guests can buy area-specific hats. Speaking of Saguaro Guitaro, yes, our prickly pal is the mascot of our area, but they're also the mascot of Viva La Vegan, the new burrito brand, so I just had to make our restaurant exactly that. In fact, the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that our merch in the gift shop was using the brand's colors. Viva La Vegan is the Mojo Dojo Casa House de los Burritos. I mean, come on, how many more times could I have made that reference to Barbie during my time on Planet Coaster 2? I just had to do it. We are all just Ken after all. I hope you have understood by now that this is a burrito restaurant with its own menus and extras that I will let you read if you download the park, because I don't want to make my viewers needlessly hungry. There's a So Delightful and of course a Viva La Vegan inside with custom interiors to hide the colorful boxes they came with. We've got a first floor where guests can eat with a view on the first helix of Cactus Express, our Gerstlauer Family Coaster that I promise I haven't forgotten. There's also an implied second floor with a terrace that guests would access thanks to this staircase on the side, but it's the thought that counts, right? Especially when you see how good the view is from up here. I've used the mythology canopy to cover custom tables because for some reason you're not allowed to elevate picnic tables, but you can elevate picnic benches. Alright then, as I often say, there is no problem, only solutions waiting to be invented. Our last stop before we go and visit Cactus Express is what will become our portal towards the entrance plaza themed to Queen Splash. Much like the portal of the Pueblo from the way it was in the last episode to the way it is now, this one is also subject to change, especially because the Planet Coaster logo is temporary. I wasn't satisfied with the names I came up with yet, between Splash Plaza, even though there won't be any water rides in the park, and Mascot Plaza, that sounds boringly generic. What name would you use for the entrance plaza? Let me know in the comments. And here we are, Cactus Express. This is a Gerstlauer Family Coaster that is greatly inspired by Pegasus Express at Parc Astérix, hence the name. Of course, the in-game model is an Intamin Multidimension coaster, but I thought it was also a great substitute for a Gerstlauer Family Coaster and another Gerstlauer type that we should see later in the series. That is why I've built this coaster, knowing full well that the distinct features of these coasters are switch tracks and backward sections. From a mildly thrilling start to a fun backward section and an explosive ending, I think this coaster is very well rounded and builds up the rider's excitement throughout the ride to end with a crescendo. But nothing of the sort would be efficient without the theming, mostly because I like to think that our ride is a modern mine train with launches. That is why I themed my first coaster trains to have locomotives for their front cars that each have their train numbers on them, and I also made custom back cars with a little sign saying "Hasta la vista." Something I gotta say I am not a fan of with these trains or other models in the game like the Max Super Splash is that they have permanent lights and you can't change their colors at all, which for an industrial mine train themed coaster is alright I guess, but I imagine this will be a problem the next time I use this model. Anyway, enough about the train, let's walk you through the experience of getting to the ride. The entrance is very interesting. I've always wanted to do some stairs that embrace the entrance in the past, and now you can do it very easily thanks to the new pathing system. Those stairs are leading to the exit of the ride, which sits right above the entrance of the queue line, both using the structure of a crumbled bell tower that has a few interesting details. The first of which is an animated custom clock, which cannot tell the time unfortunately, but brings a nice kinetic element to the area, especially when the coaster launches out of the station. I made it using mythology pillars, a wheel from the Viking theme, scaled down gutters for each hour, and aquatic signs for both hands of the clock that are attached to 3 separate animatronics. The first one is set to a slow rotation for the hand that shows the hour, the minutes is placed on top of the first and is also set to slow but goes twice as fast as a result, and the 2 animatronics are placed on top of a third one that activates the erratic spinning when the train departs. With a crumbled tower, I thought it was too easy not to have debris scattered around the structure, so I put some lodged in the roof as well as some that has fallen near our entrance. I used the classic height check that I've previously used in the park, and we're greeted by a Cactus Express sign as we join the queue line. Half of the queue line is set underneath the station and is a way to suggest that this place is part of an old mining operation that has recently been revived. This is shown by the clutter and overall structure of the queue, where everything seems to be supported by metal beams. Making our way through the queue, we get some views of the outside where the mine train goes on this crazy adventure in the Cactus Canyon. One last turn and we arrive to a rising cattle pen with views on the first launch out of the station, and it is also protected by a canopy because it gets hot in the Mexican desert. Up to our final cattle pen before the station, our view of the canyon is blocked by wooden walls in order not to spoil the ride for our guests. However, we do get peeks inside the station as we get closer to standing in front of the air gates. Our station is very much themed to be an industrial train station of some kind, almost steampunk in some aspects. The rows are numbered accordingly, and you can see clutter reflecting the fact that this is the base of operation of this recently revived mining operation. On the other side of the station, we also have custom loose article shelves and my classic Yan BK operator booth, completely custom, sheltered so our ride-up avoids sunburns, and of course featuring our ride description board as well as the mandatory light switches and power outlet. And of course, a build is only as good as a ride is, so is Cactus Express good? Well, my friends, I think you will have to tell me in the comments after we've taken a ride. Well, there we go. How good was that? From a cactus canyon to an abandoned mine shaft to a Mexican Pueblo, I think we ended up with a very good modern triple launch mine train in a really immersive area that feels extremely unique thanks to this theme that doesn't exist in the game. What do you think about Pueblo de Saguaro Guitaro? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're making our way to 5,000 subscribers and I'll start my first Planet Coaster 2 contest if we reach that goal. This series is truly my favorite thing I've ever made in Planet Coaster 1 and 2 combined already, and only a third of the park is done at this point. If you want to see progress pictures and my videos in early access, you can become a channel supporter like the 9 legends who appear on your screen right now, who will also get their names featured on a dedicated monument in the next episode when we build the park entrance. And if you don't want to spend money but would like to get invested in what I do, join the 204 members of my Yan HQ Discord community where we share our workshop items, screenshots, and simply socialize. Your invite awaits in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I can't wait to show you what's next for Camtaso Park, but for now, this has been Yan, and I'll see you in the next one.